Welcome to the AT Center at TCNJ. This webinar is titled Introduction to AAC and is presented by me, Madison Bronstein. I'm an ASHA certified and New Jersey State licensed speech and language pathologist and RESNA certified assistive technology professional. Prior to my current role here at the AT Center at TCNJ, I've practiced in private and public schools, home care, and private practice, serving pediatrics ages 1 to 21. I've gained the majority of my specialized experience working in a private school for students with brain-based disorders in New York City. These webinars are made possible through our partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education. The statements issued by guest presenters do not reflect the stance of the NJDOE-OSE. Please use your professional judgment when implementing strategies and resources within your practice. Now, let's get into the webinar. Okay, I introduced myself before. Our topic this morning is Introduction to AAC. All right, just a little bit about the AT Center at TCNJ. So our mission is to provide high quality professional development for teachers, families, educators, related service providers around the state on the topics of assistive technology, which includes AAC. We'll have some more contact information at the end if you're interested in specific district support. So we'll go through that at the end. The Assistive Technology Center at TCNJ is sponsored by the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education, partially funded by IDEA Part B. All right, and in an effort to carry over accessibility into everything that we do, this presentation is designed to be fully accessible to anyone who needs it. So we have an acronym here. It's POUR, P-O-U-R, perceivable. So we have captions, like I said. Every image here has alt text and appropriate contrast. So if it has a dark background, it has light colored text. If it has a light background, it has dark colored text. It's operable. You can easily navigate. There's links to all the content on there. Understandable, predictable, and consistent design of information, and robust. It works on all platforms. And if you're interested in learning more about designing for accessibility, you could check out this great link from CAST here. All right, and just some disclaimers. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm an ASHA certified and New Jersey state licensed speech and language pathologist. I am also an employee of TCNJ and receive a salary from the college. And any of the vendors, products, softwares that we mention in this presentation, we do not have any financial relations with and do not receive any compensation from. All right, I thought it'd be fun just to get to know me in a non-professional and professional way. So I am actually a career changer. I did not go to my undergrad for speech pathology. I received my master's of science in speech language pathology from New York Medical College. I've practiced in a variety of settings: private schools, public schools, home care, and private practice. I'm serving mainly pediatrics. And I gained the majority of my specialized experience in AAC working at a private school for children with brain-based disorders in Manhattan. I also hold my assistive technology professional certification from RESNA. And just a little bit about things I like to do. I have a dog, so I like to take my dog for walks. I like to go for runs. I like to read. I like to play video games, and I like to travel. Just some pictures on the side here. All right, getting into the learning objectives for today. So following our presentation today, participants will be able to define AAC as well as describe different aided and unaided AAC methods. Participants will be able to name at least 3 different AAC software programs and differentiate how the language is organized in each. Participants will be able to dispel common myths about AAC. We'll have a fun section at the end that's interactive, so you guys can put your answers in the chat. And following this presentation, participants will be able to use best practice to implement strategies to support carryover of AAC use and vocabulary growth in the classroom. All right, jumping right into it. So AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. Augmentative meaning to add to someone's verbal speech, and alternative meaning to be able to be used instead of someone's verbal speech. So when we talk about AAC, we have unaided and aided AAC. So unaided, these are going to be your no-tech AAC methods. So anything from gestures, facial expressions, signs. And something to note about unaided AAC is it often requires adequate motor control and communication partners who can interpret the intended message. So we're going to talk mostly about aided AAC today. So these are approaches that require some form of external support. That could be a light tech core board, a mid technology device, a high tech speech generating device. So we'll go more into that. All right, types of aided AAC, light, mid, and high tech AAC. So you might also hear light tech referred to as low tech. It means the same thing, just a change in the terminology, just to reflect we don't want to associate low technology with low functioning. So we call it light tech. All right, so these are paper-based options with no voice output. So these also require a communication partner to interpret because they don't have that voice output component. So these could be symbols, a symbol book. We have a communication book on the left here. This is a pod book. On the right, in the bottom right corner, we have this woman is using an E-Tran board, a light tech eye gaze accessible board. So these are all forms of light tech AAC. And an individual's AAC system can consist of multiple kinds of AAC. If we think about the way that we communicate, we use no tech AAC in addition to maybe verbal speech. So then we have mid-tech AAC. So these typically require batteries. These are just some examples here. We have, you might have seen a Go Talk 20, this green in the bottom right-hand corner. We have a step-by-step. This is the button with the green top, and we have blue, yellow, and red that can interchange. So these have different levels, and you can program in your own message with your voice for the individual who is using them. And we'll talk about some pros and cons of each of these methods of AAC in 2 slides. And then we have, this should say high technology on the top. It does say light technology, but these are high technology AAC devices. So it could be an iPad with an AAC app, a dedicated Windows or iOS-based speech generating device made by, these are just some examples of vendors, Tobii Dynavox, PRC, Smartbox, AbleNet, etc. So in the middle here, we have a person using eye gaze as an access method. So we'll talk a little bit more about access methods as well. All right, as I said before, just some pros and cons of each, just something to think about when you're looking at what system might be right for an individual. And if you sign up for our webinar in the afternoon, we're going to be talking about evaluations. So we'll be getting more into this as well. So just in summary, our light tech, what's great about light tech is it can be used in lots of environments that maybe don't support the use of high tech. Our high tech devices need to be charged. They're bulky and they're big, whereas our light tech boards can be laminated. You could use that by the pool. You don't have to worry about glare if it's on a matte laminated board, but they do require a trained communication partner to help use that with the student. If you have a book of light tech symbols, it can be kind of cumbersome to carry around and flip through. If you have just a core board, it's not super robust. And we'll talk about what robust means in a few slides as well. Our mid-technology devices also have voice output. They are less expensive than high-tech devices, and they can support more phrase-based social language that a communication partner can help program in. And just some cons, they are also dependent on batteries. They can break as well. And the displays need to be changed and reproduced for different environments or different communication functions, not as robust as our high-tech dynamic display devices. Okay, access methods. So we have 2 kinds of access. We have direct selection and we have indirect selection. Direct selection involves using a body part, stick, or stylus to directly choose something without being provided a specific set of choices. You can directly select with your finger. You can also use your eyes to direct select or a head mouse as well. I'm going to show one, see if it pops up. Just to preface, this is Brad and Dan. So Brad is the AAC user. Dan is his business partner and former paraprofessional. We actually had these guys on a webinar back in the fall, and they're really awesome. Definitely check out their YouTube channel. They have an Instagram. They post lots of content on making everything accessible. So I'm just going to play this real quick. It's 2 minutes.
Yes.
So this is Brad's eye tracking device called TD Pilot from Tobii Dynavox. The best way to describe it is it's basically an iPad surrounded by a specialized case. Now the eye tracker is located right here at the bottom, and what it does is through infrared technology, it tracks Brad's eye movements and pinpoints exactly where he's looking on the iPad screen. On the back of his device, Brad's got some built-in speakers so he can amplify his voice and even listen to music. Also located on the back of Brad's device is what we call the partner window, which Brad can turn on or off whenever he wants.
It's great for face-to-face conversations.
To navigate the device, Brad uses Apple's accessibility feature called Assistive Touch. So he's showing you that menu right here on the screen. So anything that I can do with my fingers, like pinch and zoom, scroll, Brad can do with his eyes with the Assistive Touch menu. Brad uses a feature called Dwell to make his selections. Brad's usual dwell time is 0.6 seconds. This means he has to hold his gaze for roughly half a second when he's looking at a letter on his keyboard or looking at an object while he's navigating his device. Now, since he's using an iPad, Brad has access to all the iOS apps. Anything from social media, productivity, and even gaming. Brad can control using his eyes. So now Brad's going to navigate over to his communication app that's called TD Talk. As you guys can see, it's your standard keyboard layout. He's also got some predictive text right up here, and that definitely makes typing a whole lot faster.
Hey guys.
So that's Brad's communication device in a nutshell. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to let us know.
Hope it was an eye-opening experience. Did it? Ha ha.
Up and back into here. Yeah, they're really cool. Definitely check out their channel and their content. All right, indirect selection. So this involves making a choice provided a group of choices. So user chooses via their intended access method. That could be a vocalization, a switch activation, any kind of movement. So this can be done in different manners: visual scanning, auditory scanning, and partner assisted scanning. I could do a whole other presentation on access, but this is kind of just an overview here. So we're going to click one of these videos and we'll check out single switch scanning.
There we go. What color M&M? Oh, white. White M&M? Brown.
So I'll just pause it for a second. So the device is auto scanning through the choices, and she's using that switch to stop it, essentially to select a choice.
No, brown. Green, blue, yellow, and red. Green or brown, red. So what do we want? Green, blue, yellow, and red. Any color, we don't want brown, okay? Pink? Is there a pink? I don't think there's pink M&Ms.
All right, I'm just going to pause it there. Go back. So you can think about, with scanning, really the precise timing and attention that you have to pay for that access method. And like I said, there's a whole steps to switch scanning by Linda Burkhart, and that requires a whole separate presentation, but just to give you a little snippet of an indirect selection method. All right, so when we talk about vocabulary, we talk about core and fringe vocabulary. So core vocabulary is a small set of words that are used frequently across different contexts, and they make up about 80% of our everyday language. So words like go, more, want, you can see how you can assign those to different contexts. Fringe vocabulary are words specific to a topic, individual, or environment. So more specifically, train, drive in this example. Thinking about how you could use the word go to mean drive. So how those core words are more functional across different contexts. So this is the universal core vocabulary. There's a link here for Project Core. They have a lot of great informational modules that you could check out. Really short, awesome overviews. And with this link, you can access universal core boards with different symbol sets. So a lot of our AAC systems that we're going to talk about, our softwares have these core vocabulary built in to that main page. A lot of times it'll follow to a secondary page, depending on how the language is organized on the system. All right, and as we noted before, the term robust vocabulary. So when you hear the term robust vocabulary, this means it contains a mixture of both core and fringe vocabulary to allow the individual to say what they want to say in all kinds of different ways. So let's talk about modeling. So you may have heard this word before. And I was actually reading an interesting article the other day about how the term modeling is maybe not the best term to call what we do as communication partners for our AAC users, because we want to model without expectation. So that means modeling without expecting the AAC user to reciprocate the communication. And there's also another term, if you're an SLP, you might have heard aided language input. this is the same thing. So modeling without expectation, these are just some different examples of how you can model without expectation with different modalities of AAC. So pointing to more on a core board or communication book, and then providing more of a snack. Not waiting for that individual to touch that word. Activating a switch with the pre-programmed message, I like that, when a student demonstrates interest in a toy. Selecting the word go on a high-tech AAC device and then pushing a train along the tracks. Talking about that, how those core words can be used in multiple different contexts in reference to the slide before. Or walking with a student to gym class and saying, let's go to gym. And remembering to use your voice as you model too. This is especially important with our light tech communication because it does not have voice output, but providing that multiple modalities of language input for that child is really important, even when you're modeling on a high technology device. Okay, so why do we model without expectation? The student's AAC device is their voice, and it's important that we recognize their bodily autonomy. So this is the Communication Bill of Rights. Every place that I've worked, I've always had the Communication Bill of Rights taped to my desk. I just think it's a great visual to remind you and for others to look at and just to reflect on why we communicate and what what we're allotted to as communicators. Some examples: to ask for what I want, to be given real choices, to share my feelings, to be treated with dignity and respect. I love this one in the bottom right corner: to be spoken with, not about, to have my speech system working and have a backup. So if you click that link, you can download the Communication Bill of Rights and read more about it. All right, some more on modeling. So when should I model? As often as possible. Not to say that you need to model every single word that you say. Pick a few words out of your sentence and focus on that. Don't need to think about using proper grammar, especially if you're new to AAC. I think people, when they've never seen AAC before and they're working with an AAC user, it can be overwhelming, and giving these steps to start can be helpful to help them get to know the system. All right, they're not looking. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not taking in what you're saying. Some learners may have difficulty looking and listening at the same time. And as I said before, this gives you more practice and confidence modeling, getting to know their AAC system better. And again, reiterating again, picking a few words that are really important to that message. Another helpful tip is to, if you're navigating to different pages on the student's device, to narrate your navigation. So you can say, now I'm looking for a word I want to say. I'm going to all word lists, transportation, car. Yes, mom will come pick you up in the car today. Now, using a additional core vocabulary would be awesome as well. This was just an example. So that helps the student to know, hey, where is that word located if I wanted to find it on my own? All right, I'd like to throw this in here. I know not everyone in our audience is an SLP, but I think it's helpful to look at this prompting hierarchy to show where we come from and how we provide support to our AAC users. And I love this visual because modeling is the umbrella over everything. So this colorful umbrella on the top, you're always providing that language input for the student. Thinking about young infants when they're learning language, you're always narrating their world and providing that input for them. And we want to do the same for our AAC users. So working from the top down, so from a least to most prompting hierarchy, I want to highlight that there are pauses in between each one of these steps to indicate that an expectant pause is a great thing to do for our AAC users. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. I also want to highlight that there is no physical prompting on this hierarchy here. As we said, the communication device is the students, and we want to preserve their autonomy. It's their voice. And by that, I mean hand-over-hand prompting. The importance of an expectant, inviting pause. So I really like this video here. I'm going to play it in a moment. What an expectant pause can do is it allows the user to process language that's presented to them. It might let them know that maybe it's their turn if they want to say anything, and provides them with the time to generate what they want to say.
Hand rule to remind myself and other communication partners about the input we need to provide on the AAC to ensure loads of language learning opportunities and to avoid the AAC seeming like a test. I've changed the thumb, which is usually question, to expectant pause because I think questions are too direct, especially for our beginning users. I'm going to put some more information in the comments.
All right, just a quick video there. I thought that was really good and just providing a way to talk about that input with the expectant pause at the end. All right, another strategy you can help support AAC users is asking your SLP, what word level is this student at? Are they using single words? Are they putting words together? And trying to scaffold them to the next level. So I have an example here. A student is struggling to turn the page of a book and uses their device to say help. You could say, oh, it looks like you said, help me. Sure, I can do that. Again, there's no expectation for the student to say anything. It's just showing them we could expand this in this way. We could add a pronoun here. Another example here, a student is having lunch and uses their eye gaze device to say more. Yeah, let's have some more yogurt. Putting that core word with that fringe vocabulary word, yogurt. And as we said in that video, the woman in the video referenced that we don't want to make AAC seem like a task. So not to say that you can't ask the AAC user questions, but if you always ask questions, it might seem like a task or a test to the AAC user. Increase the amount of comments that you make. So narrate what's happening in the classroom, the weather, what the child is wearing that day, anything and everything. All right, before we, we're going to get into the specific apps, but I wanted to highlight, especially for people who are new to a certain software program or they're new to AAC in general, and they might want to find a word. So how you search is different in each program, but oftentimes they will lead you through the motor pathway to reach that intended word, which is really awesome because it's teaching that motor pathway for both the communication partner and the AAC user if they're watching. So not to build reliance on this tool, to use it as a tool for yourself to learn where language is located in the device. Okay, so I was talking before about how babies are exposed to so much rich language in their environment when they're learning. And it takes at least a year for a child to start saying their first words. So in terms of an AAC user exploring their vocabulary, it might look like they're stimming on the device. It can be distracting during classroom lessons. And this is my own personal guidance, coming back to the student is exploring their device. It's important to acknowledge their communication attempt and assign meaning to what they're saying. So say before, I was using the word car. So say if they were saying car, 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 car on their device, you could say a car. Did you see a car outside? Or maybe they're sitting by a window. Following this, if it's distracting during a classroom lesson, try to redirect them to the activity, but do not take the device away or turn off the output volume. Again, this is their voice. We're going to talk about some apps. I have a lot of apps on here, so we're just going to pick out some salient features and talk about the language organization of these apps. All right, starting off with something that a lot of you might be familiar with, we have Proloquo to Go by AssistiveWare. So Proloquo to Go is organized categorically. It does offer some predictive text in typing mode. A feature that I really like, especially if you're trying to isolate vocabulary for a new AAC user, is the progressive language feature. So this is within your settings. You can turn on the progressive language feature under vocabulary. And what it'll do is it has different steps that you can put someone at, and it will basically hide most of the vocabulary except for a few core words. And it's important that the AAC user has access to their full vocabulary throughout the day, but just thinking about how if you're trying to teach certain words, you could have this on in a lesson, you could have this on in a therapy session or part of a therapy session. But again, allowing them to have their full vocabulary in other instances aside from these specific isolated times. Okay, so this on the left, it's called Proloquo. This is a program that AssistiveWare came out with a few years ago. Personally, I think they should have chosen a different name because I think it's kind of confusing. But just some really interesting features with Proloquo that are different from Proloquo to Go. So all of your categories are organized in these little top tabs right under the message bar here. And some cool features here is that Proloquo has a related words list. So on the right-hand side here, under the delete button, we have a list of just words, no symbols. So what happens here is you would select a word within your device, and on the side, it would pop up some related words. So these could be synonyms, other related topic words. I think this is a really great feature for a student who has literacy skills to be able to support this. What's great about this program is it can help the user's vocabulary grow across the lifespan. It has a lot of great categorical words, such as like there's a government tab, there's all kinds of in-depth science words that a student could use. Additionally, they have a focus mode as well. So that's a similar to what I was talking about with progressive language, is you can isolate those vocabulary words. And what that does is in this program is it kind of grays out the background words and puts the intended word in full color. So definitely you could play around with that if you have this program. Additionally, there's a feature called thinking space. So what this does is it's basically like a whiteboard, and the student can drag vocabulary words and kind of explore with them in kind of a, thought bubble kind of way. So just a cool feature here. I was talking about these before. Additionally, I will highlight that this program comes with a companion app called Proloquo Coach. So this is also really unique and great because, like I said, it comes with the app. Family members, IEP team members can have access to this, and it walks them through kind of like how-tos with the app. It also talks about a lot of these language facilitation strategies that we've talked about. It goes into modeling and other kind of carryover strategies. So that's a really great feature. Okay, I'm briefly going to go through GoTalk. A lot of languages available here, which is great. Just a limitation is, the max grid size. This is, more an older program, but it does offer word prediction capabilities. It is organized categorically as well. Okay, TD Snap. So we're going to talk about a few page sets on TD Snap. So this is Core First. This is kind of their standard page set that comes with TD Snap, organized categorically as well. Lots of languages available, which is great. I find TD Snap to be really user-friendly as a speech pathologist to program. And additionally, they have some of these other programs, which I'll notate, have this as well. But they have an online community where people can upload page sets that they've made, and you can download them to your MyToby Dynavox account, and you can put them on user's device, and you can further customize them if you wanted to do that as well. So what's great about that is we all know in the school setting, our time is really valuable, and this time for programming and customization is not always available to us, even if it is programmed into our schedule. So say a student was really into Bluey. You could download a specific Bluey page that someone made on PageSet Central, which is awesome. They also have a Quick Fires page, which has a lot of social language. Additionally, their topics category also has a lot of phrase-based language around different topic areas, which is awesome. All right, going into a motor plan. So this is another page set within TD Snap. Motor plan, and we'll talk about motor planning in a few slides. This has that core vocabulary that stays in that same place. Additionally, when you go to a page, it jumps you back to that main page immediately, so you don't have to navigate back. I think this program is really great. I actually evaluated a student for this program. She had cortical visual impairment, and with some features that TD Snap offers in there, such as auditory touch, this was a great choice for her. Using a key guard, it really helped with that basis of the motor plan to provide her with the best access to her language. And then we have Pod. So I'm talking about Pod on TD Snap, but Pod is also available for other software programs such as Grid, MindExpress and SimPod. Well, we're going to touch on Grid, but we will not talk about MindExpress or SimPod. So POD stands for Pragmatic Organization Dynamic Display. So this system was created by Gail Porter out of Australia, and I think her name is Gayle. I think that Y got cut out there. So if you're searching it, Gayle. And this is based on a light technology system, so a book system. And the app is meant to be used in conjunction with the book system. They do trainings here. Sometimes in New Jersey, they just had one back in November. So if you go on their website or you go to at4nj.org, our State Assistive Technology Act program, Mike Murata, who runs that, he helps facilitate those trainings. What's great about POD is it's pragmatically organized. So it has these pragmatic branches, they're called. So for example, creed and manners, I have an idea, I'm telling a story, etc. And it also does have some great core vocabulary in there. But, I think about this for students who are really social and also for students who maybe have the ability to put words together, but maybe they don't have the patience to do so. Like I said, it also has core vocabulary in there. So you're not abandoning the core, you're still able to teach that, but it allows the student to express what they want to say, using that phrase-based language. Okay, and then Grid. So Grid is really awesome. Grid, as I said, POD is available on Grid as well. They also have a software called a page set called VocoChat, or it's called a Grid set. We're going to talk about SuperCore here. So this is what you see on the screen here. I would consider Grid like a medium motor planning software as well. It has a lot of core that stays in the same place and has access to other folders and jumps you back as well. So some great features that Grid has, they actually have a lot of cool AI features. They have something called a fix tool. So this is if a student is maybe at a beginning stage with their grammar. So if they're using the keyboard or they're combining words, it will help to use AI to help with that grammar support. So obviously there are considerations to think about here in terms of AI. I do want to say that. That might not be what the user is intending to say. So really want to think about those ethical considerations with AI. They also integrate AI-powered voices through 11 Labs. So this is really cool. Apple has their own personal voice feature that you can, give it some prompts and it makes your synthesized voice. So 11 Labs also does this. It's pretty cool. I think it's a little bit more robust, and I've tried both. So definitely check it out. I think if you're, I don't know if it's just for SLPs, but they have like professional trial licenses. So you can check that out. And again, borrowing on AI policy, you can do that outside of your school association if you want to check it out. Also, I want to notate with Grid is they have other page sets aside from communication. So when you get the page, you can add page sets that people have created on the internet, similar to what I was talking about with TD Snap. It's online grid sets when you're going into the add grid set. And some of those, just kind of talking about them without showing, they have some emotional regulation tools, which are awesome. I know they have one that's built into it shows the visual of the time going down, and they have a breathing one. It helps the student breathe in and out. So just some really great tools that are integrated within Grid other than just the communication. Okay, Speak for Yourself. So Speak for Yourself was created by two speech language pathologists, and we're going to talk about LAMP in a slide or two, but it's not similar to LAMP, but in the sense that it's organized according to a motor plan. So the whole thing with Speak for Yourself is the user has to click no more than 2 times to find a word that they're looking for. And the grid size stays the same here, a 15 by 8. So you can't have a smaller or a larger grid size. And you can connect to third-party keyboards or use your internal iPad keyboard if you're using it on an iPad. Okay, we're going to talk about Unity and LAMP. So Unity and LAMP both use, actually I'm going to go to LAMP first, even though that's second here. They both use the MinSpeak vocabulary, which again, that's a whole other training that I am not certified to give. They have specific MinSpeak trainers. So if you go on the Center for AAC and Autism or on PRC's website, you can find resources for that. The training for LAMP is really good. I would definitely recommend going to a training if you're an SLP. So LAMP is organized according to a motor plan, and it also has this semantic organization of these symbols. So for example, on the screen here, we're just going to talk about a couple symbols here. The word need has a picture of an umbrella because you might need an umbrella when it's raining. So when you open up that page, there's a bunch of weather words on the page. Also, we have the do symbol. It's the finger pointing up. It has a string tied around it. When you get married, you say, I do. So that's the meaning of that symbol. Definitely check out those MinSpeak trainings for more. But again, similar to Speak for Yourself, LAMP stands for Language Acquisition Through Motor Planning. The symbols stay in the same place and they bump you back to the main page when you follow that sequence. So this is available in one hit or full. So one hit, it's going to be what you see here. Full, it's going to take you to the next page, like I was saying, with the weather words under need. Jumping back to Unity, Unity uses the same MinSpeak symbols, but it is organized a little bit differently. Unity has a lot more functionalities in terms of, as you can see on that top message bar, device. So there's a whole page, just kind of your operational things with your device. I need to charge my device, stuff like that, turn it on, turn it off, make it louder. There's a school page, there's a fun page. Not to say that you can't program those into LAMP, but LAMP, having that distinct motor plan, things need to stay where they are. The thing to note with LAMP is that nothing that's on there when it's out of the box should be deleted. Everything needs to stay where it is. When you want to add vocabulary, you can add, in specific places that are open cells. So for example, this little letter up here with mine, someone writing a letter, that's a place that I like to put social vocabulary. So because it is mine, stuff that reflects the student's interests or their family or their pet, you could put the pets in there. You could put the pets in the little dog with cum that has all the animals. So that's really up to you. But again, keeping everything that's there in the same place is really important. All right, touch chat. So a lot of people might be familiar with touch chat. I find that, within public schools, I see mostly touch chat, Proloco to Go, sometimes LAMP. But, looking at all these different software programs, maybe there's one that you're interested in for your district or you think might be a good fit for a specific student. So, definitely something to consider. So touch chat with word power. So this I also consider a medium motor planning software. It is organized categorically. The categories depends on the grid size. But for example, if you click the word open, next to the word open, a couple icons would show up. So open the book, open the door, etc. So it kind of helps you jump to, hey, that's maybe what I want to say. Like I might have wanted to say, open the book, open the door. There's less navigation required, and that's always in the same place. It always pops that up on the side. All right, we're just going to notate some features. So this is Avaz. This is a newer app, and some features that Avaz has that's really cool. It does offer a lot of Indian languages, which is, I find, not as well supported in other programs. Something that's really cool about Avaz is they have this thing called expressive tones. So as you can see in this screenshot here, we have, type something into the message bar and you can decide if you want to say it with an angry tone, an excited tone, questioning tone, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll change the tone of the voice output, which I think is really cool. All right, and I will really quick note on WeaveChat. So we don't have anything on the side here, but WeaveChat is free. So that's really awesome because we know a lot of these apps are expensive or subscription based. So having something that's robust and free is really awesome. You can see a little bit about like how someone, would have customized a board. They put this one in dark mode specifically. So some other things to note about WeaveChat is it's available. You could put it on a phone as well, an iPhone. And they also have this thing called WeChat Connect, where you can remotely edit vocabulary. That's also a feature that Tobii Dynavox, you could do that with Tobii Dynavox and other programs as well. But just wanted to shout out something that's free. which is awesome. The Connect, the remote editing is a paid feature actually, but the AAC program is free. So just wanted to get into some things that we talked about before, talking about grid sizes. So this is just an example of how different grid sizes would look in Proloquo Go. So we have 32 or an 8x4, and we have 144 on the right here. It's a common misconception to start a child on a smaller grid size and gradually increase the number of buttons displayed. So going back to this slide, this is not the best practice because then your location of your words changes. And that student, if they built that motor plan, it completely throws it off. Then it's harder and it's frustrating for them to locate buttons that they had been easily able to access before. Additionally, we want to expose our students to a robust vocabulary. A smaller grid size may be limiting to the AAC user in regards to the number of core and fringe words they can learn and express. And there are some other considerations, maybe students who have some vision components, not to say we put them on a super small grid size, but that might limit their grid size a little bit depending on the student. That in that case, it might be a good decision to put a student on something that has more of a motor plan. So definitely a case-by-case basis, but many software programs allow you to temporarily hide buttons to isolate vocabulary words for explicit teaching, like I was talking about before. Proloquo Go has that progressive language feature. Outside of this, make sure the user has access to explore their full, robust vocabulary. Okay. Talked a little bit about motor planning, but just thinking about some things that we do every day that involve motor planning. So driving, if you drive, typing on a keyboard, texting, we don't necessarily have to look where we're going. Well, driving, you have to look where you're going. If you're typing on a keyboard, mastered the motor plan of that keyboard. The same with texting, where your thumbs know where to go, even if you're not looking at it. Motor planning is important, again, highlighting a word is in one place and the route to the word doesn't change. By doing this, the AAC user requires less mental effort to navigate or find words, the more mental bandwidth they have to be able to access language and find purpose in communication.
Madison, there was another question in the chat talking about the apps. So you had mentioned Weave Chat, which was available on the iPhone. This person, Beth, said, other than Weave Chat, which other apps are available on an iPhone specifically?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would have to get back to you on that off the top of my head. I know that I have a I have a list of it somewhere. But I know I'll have to get back to you on that. So I can send you some resources for that. That's a great question though. So we're going to talk a little bit about integrating AAC in classroom activities. So during shared reading, as you can see on the left picture here, we have someone holding a book, and she is also pointing to a large core vocabulary board. These are awesome. I know that Proloquo Go specifically, there are people who make them, but there's not like a vendor presence in the US that gives them out or produces them. I know for PRC, Saltillo, if you contact your rep, they can give you these large core boards. If you're an SLP, additionally, Tobii Dynavox has large core boards as well that work great for the classroom. You could even, obviously with the correct permissions, like make it into a mock playground board. It wouldn't necessarily be weatherproof, but if that were something you would want to bring in and out, maybe set it up on a stand and bring it in and out. That might work really well. So just some more things to note about shared reading, including those expectant pauses and wait times after models or after reading specific pages, signaling to the student that, hey, if you want to make a comment, this might be a great time to make a comment. And paraprofessionals can help carry over models on the student's device while the teacher is reading, modeling letters that words start with, and finding related words that start with that letter. So integrating those literacy skills. All right, sensory play. So if that's part of your student's day, that'd be a great place to integrate a light technology core board. You can get that messy. You can, wipe it off easily because it's laminated. So these are typically highly motivating activities for students, so it could pique their interest and their engagement. and help them carry over that vocabulary while engaging in meaningful movement or other activities. All right, lunchtime, snack time. These are great opportunities to model your core words with your fringe words. I know a lot of the time support staff might think of this as, oh, this is just an opportunity for me to take a breath, but just seeing where you could interact with the student and have their device out next to their lunch and throwing in some core vocabulary modeling throughout their day so they can get that language input. All right, so actually now we are going to hop into our fact or fiction section. So Vanessa, I might need your help with the and if there are any questions before we hop into the fact or fiction section, let me know.
There are none currently in the chat or the QA, but again, you can type them in there, you can unmute, whatever is easier. So no questions at the moment.
Okay. All right. So this is the time.
I'm sorry. We spoke to, no, I'm good. Beth, thank you so much. How do you print a core board from Proloquo to go?
So, paper-sized core boards like an 8 by 10. They have on their website, on AssistiveWare's website, but the large ones, like I was saying before, I've seen them on Etsy. I would do some Googling. So if you're looking for a large one, might be a little bit more of a trek to find, but on AssistiveWare's website, which actually I will just pull it up here. So I think you go to resources, communication boards here. So it looks like you can download. This one has the keyboard on the back, which is awesome, and some social phrases. That's for Proloquo, actually. This one is Proloquo to go on the bottom here. Someone said you can print, enlarge, and laminate core boards at learning resource centers. Yes, you can. That is a great addition there. What do you do if the children are using different devices? Will the core boards look different, and which do you use? That's a great question. I would say as long as you're carrying it over to the student's specific device, you could use one, from one program versus another. You could take a look at if they, across the devices, if they share a symbol set. So Proloquo uses symbol sticks, so these little stick figure guys. But I think as long as you're carrying it over to a model on the student's specific device, I think it would be meaningful and impactful. Someone else said, is there any specific scripts you'd recommend to have in our back pocket as an SLP to get more buy-in from a teacher to use the AAC throughout the school day, especially when the student is not very motivated to use the device? Ooh, okay, this is an interesting question. I think highlighting progress of other students, some of the things we talked about before about the communication autonomy. I think just kind of continually reminding them of the importance of these strategies. I think it's great to hear from users too. So, you could point them in the direction of someone like Brad and Dan from All Access Life. So I think hearing from, adult users, look up Jordan Zimmerman. We had her presentation was not recorded, but she's an adult AAC user and autistic person, and we had her on our webinars, which was great. Definitely highlighting those strategies, highlighting user stories, highlighting the importance of communication autonomy. Thank you, Vanessa, for those links. Did anyone else have any questions, or did I miss anything before we get into the, let me go back to this, before we get into the fact or fiction? I don't see any, but Vanessa, you will let me know. Okay, so we need your participation in the chat here. So you can just say fact or fiction in the chat. Okay. All right. Fact or fiction. AAC is only for non-speaking people. All right. I'm seeing a lot of fiction, false, fiction, false. That is fiction. Thank you for your participation. So while many children develop speech as their main way of communicating, research shows that 25 to 35% of autistic children may remain minimally verbal even after receiving early intervention. Thinking about our students who use scripted or echolalic language, how AAC can help support them as well. How, someone could be a part-time AAC user, how it could be a component of their communication system. And I also want to highlight here, I meant to say this in the beginning of the presentation, but the term non-speaking is typically a more well-accepted term among people who use AAC. as opposed to nonverbal. We want to use the term non-speaking. Okay, and here's a great example of how AAC could help support someone who also communicates verbally. So looking at the left side of the column, we have John. So John looks out the window and says, car. His teacher responds, your mom will be here at 3:30. We need to keep working. So this message is really dependent upon how familiar the communication partner is with the student or the context of the communication. So jumping over to John on the right side, John looks out the window and says car and produces look with his communication device. His teacher looks out the window and says, yes, that is a fancy car. So just looking at how these multiple modalities can be used together and can help the student communicate their clear intention of what they wanted to communicate. And there's a link to that there if you want to check that out. All right, fact or fiction. The goal for AAC is to request. I guess those words got jumbled up, but the goal for AAC is to request. Fact or fiction? Seeing a lot of fiction. All right, that is correct. Fiction. So we have many communication functions that we use. These are a few of them. We might want to use our communication to gossip. We might want to use our communication to express our opinions, to direct someone's attention, to make choices, to discuss an interest, share an idea, argue. There are so many different communication functions. It is not just to request. Adina said, in my experience, teachers are more apt to implement the device if you supply them with written specific examples of when to use it. Many times teachers are so busy and overwhelmed with everyday lesson planning and following IEPs that they lack the time to even think about implementing and responding favorably if we help them generate ideas. Just my own personal thought. That is a great addition there, definitely. Do you have a link for that communication functions graphic? Look up the AAC coach. I don't have a specific link, but the AAC coach on Instagram. All right. Fact or fiction number 3. Introducing AAC to a child deters the development of their verbal language skills. Fiction. I love the all caps with the exclamation marks. Awesome. You all are correct. Fiction. Okay, so just a research citation here. Schlosser and Wendt conducted a review of existing literature examining the impact of AAC on speech production in children diagnosed with autism. Their findings indicated that the majority of studies reported enhancements in speech production with no evidence of negative effects. So using AAC can only help to enhance, if that student communicates with verbal language. Okay. AAC fact or fiction. Non-speaking AAC users can't learn to read because they cannot speak letter sounds. All right, lots of fiction. That is correct. And I just have a quote here from an article, Karen Erickson and Sheldon. The student's AAC system can be integrated into phonological awareness activities where individual words are arranged and rearranged to form various sentences. Even students who are unable to vocalize letter sounds might still demonstrate awareness by clapping, nodding, or rocking their bodies to indicate they recognize the rhythm of music and syllables. So it goes on, continues to talk about how individuals can learn to read in different ways, not just through phonology. And I do want to highlight Karen Erickson. I actually have under my desk, I'm going to pull out. Would definitely recommend getting yourself a copy of this book, and it's not showing because I have a background. So Comprehensive Literacy for All. So Karen Erickson works on research for literacy for skills for students who have complex communication needs. And her work is really awesome. And this is a great book. So definitely check that out. It's on Amazon if you want to get it. Okay. Using a device in speech sessions is enough. Fiction. No. All right. Fiction. As we were talking about before, thinking about a baby learning a new language, that language-rich environment happens across their day. So no, it is not enough to just use or model in speech sessions. I love this quote here. The average 18-month-old child has been exposed to 4,380 hours of oral language at a rate of 8 hours a day from birth. A child who has a communication system and receives speech language therapy 2 times per week for 20 to 30 minutes will reach the same amount of language exposure in 84 years. I think that is such a powerful statement. And before, someone had asked about how to encourage their their teachers or educators to model and incorporate AAC into their lessons. In addition to providing those specific opportunities that might be good to integrate AAC, this is a great quote to show somebody the importance of the integration of AAC throughout the school day. Okay, you need prerequisite skills in order to use AAC. Fact or fiction? Lots of fiction. You are correct. Okay, so we have Kangas and Lloyd examined several early language development studies and concluded that while there is a connection between cognitive development and the emergence of speech and language, the relationship is not causal. In some cases, language abilities were observed to emerge prior to the development of corresponding cognitive skills. So no, there are no prerequisites in order to use AAC. I was going to chat about this, but I think the next fact or fiction will be on that same topic. Every child should have the same AAC system. Seeing lots of fictions, and you are correct. They're not all fiction. I think there's a couple that aren't fiction. But no, not every child should have the same AAC system. And this includes high versus mid versus light technology. And if you're signed up for our evaluation presentation later on today, we'll chat more about that, the feature matching for students and how that's a crucial part of knowing what AAC system is best for each student. AAC is only appropriate for either school-age children or older adults who have lost speech due to stroke or neurodegenerative conditions. You are correct, fiction. AAC can serve individuals across the lifespan. And, some students don't receive the communication system that they need until midway through their life or at any point. And the same goes with really young children. Like AAC can be introduced at any point, even for really young early intervention populations. Okay, we're going to watch this quick video. And I just want to say a disclaimer here that I will skip through the part that it talks about. It says there's a part in black and white that has like a content warning. I will not play that part. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Content warning. This film contains a description of the experience of being restrained. This section of the film has a warning immediately before it and is filmed in black and white to make it easy to skip past if you decide not to watch it.
A college-bound high school senior.
My name is Jordan Zimmerman. I communicate by typing on an iPad.
My name is Endeavor, and I'm a multimodal communicator.
Hi, I'm Isaiah Graywall from Canada. I type and spell to communicate.
We're all autistic and we're unable to rely on speech to be understood. Most of us are non-speaking. Some of us can speak a little, or from time to time. People have a lot to say about us. They write stories and biographies. They produce plays and make movies about us. But they are not listening to us.
Just because I cannot speak does not mean I don't hear. I hear everything people say to me or about me. I may not show understanding in my face, but I know and understand. Not a word said escapes my so strong ears.
We may be non-speaking and need help with many things, but that doesn't mean we can't contribute to a book, a play, or a movie. If you always leave us out, people think we are not able to participate. That's why most people don't realize that we have a contribution to make. Include us, and you will see that we have so much to give.
To anyone who wishes to represent non-speaking people, I ask that you communicate with us directly. Misrepresentation of non-speaking people leaves us more vulnerable to abuse.
I should not be left out of conversations or presumed incompetent, simply because I don't rely on spoken language.
There needs to be more representation of diverse autistic identities.
The media often shapes how we view ourselves and how others around us view and esteem our place in society. When there is lack of representation or improper representation, it directly feeds into the internalization of stigma, where your membership in a group is the very cause of your negative self-esteem, feelings of inferiority, and even feelings of self-hatred.
If your story says there's no hope, people may not realize how many of us can share solutions about how to support non-speaking children and adults. People who write about us tell the world what they think is best. Other people who follow their example could hurt us rather than help us. To be treated like a child just because you can't communicate in the usual ways is humiliating and traumatic.
The way to demean me is to speak to me as if I am a baby.
I don't like people talking about me.
Consult non-speaking autists from the start and at key points throughout your project. Read our blogs and books. Watch our movies and videos. Learn about our lives.
If you have a voice, you can use it to help bring dignity back for the members of the more marginalized autistics. Let's change the plot lines and the narratives around non-speaking autistics so more and more are allowed to be visible in society and avail of opportunities in all kinds of areas. Then we will truly see more and more non-speaking autistic actors who will be able to provide us with more positive and authentic representations.
Ask us, listen to us. Nothing about us without us.
Right. I think that video is really powerful, so I wanted to feature it in here. Okay. A few more of these, and then we'll leave some time for some questions. Fact or fiction, AAC is only used as a last resort. Awesome. Seeing a lot of fiction. Awesome. So we talked about before how, AAC research shows that it can help with verbal communication as well. And for students with significant communication challenges, AAC techniques play a critical role in supporting the development of language, literacy, communication, and cognitive abilities. Introducing AAC at an early age is associated with improved developmental outcomes. People learn AAC best when others use it to talk to them. Fact or fiction? Seeing lots of facts, and you are correct. The evidence found in this specific review indicates that in response to AAC modeling-based intervention, children with complex communication needs who require AAC were able to increase their use of multisyllable utterances in a meaningful way within the context of play and shared storybook reading. Okay, a few more of these. AAC fact or fiction. AAC can reduce the severity and frequency of challenging behavior. Awesome. Fact. All right. And I do say can there. I think, having the ability to communicate is really powerful for expressing yourself in lots of different ways. Okay. You should always start with light tech AAC, fact or fiction. Seeing lots of fiction, and you guys are correct. Light tech AAC might be a good form of AAC for some, and it might not be for others. So it really depends on the student and their needs and that feature matching process. High technology AAC systems are the best option for everyone. Fact or fiction? Correct. Fiction. Just as light tech is not the best for everyone, high tech is not the best for everyone. It depends on their specific communication needs. All right. Thank you for participating in the fact or fiction section. And these are just some tips on how to be an awesome communication partner to an AAC user. So avoiding using hand-over-hand prompting or saying, tell me with your talker. We don't want to pigeonhole someone into using one method of communication. Gestures, vocalizations, commenting that you see that they're gesturing, you see that they're vocalizing, maybe they're excited about something, and then providing a model on their device, but not expecting them to use that one method of communication. Presenting options too fast or demand a response. So the importance of that wait time and modeling without expectation. So instead of using hand-over-hand prompting, model and move on. Like we said, try this instead. Instead of presenting these options too fast, giving them that wait time. Avoid negating communication attempts, even if they are a mishit or a mistake. So, that can happen. A student might not have meant what they said, but, presuming competence, narrating that they said that, oh, maybe that's not what you meant. Maybe you meant something different. Acknowledging all forms of communication. Avoid only looking at the AAC device when communicating with an AAC user. Calling back to that communication bill of rights, talking to the AAC user, not to the device, talking when they're present, not talking about them, talking with them. All right. Avoiding overhelping, really giving them that time and space to do it as independently as possible. Like we were talking about, that least to most prompting hierarchy. Preserving dignity by avoiding baby talk, drawing attention to differences or speaking about the student in front of them. So this is really important too for our older AAC users, our high school age AAC users. We watched that video a few minutes ago. Like we don't want to talk to them like they're babies because they're young adults. Give students choices and reinforce self-advocacy even with limited communication. I do see one question in the chat. How do you honor a student's request when he presses the buy button multiple times during the session? I think that's so funny, and that's a form of communication. Maybe trying to get to the bottom of why he's saying bye. It could mean that he is not particularly motivated by what's going on in the session. it could have a totally different context to the word. So really trying to get to the bottom of why are you saying bye? But, that is a student, communicating that they, protesting something. So it is a communication function, but, definitely trying to get to the bottom of that. So these are just more ways to provide choices and support autonomy, saying, would you like to use your device or point to a choice? Let's wait and see what they have to say. I'm thinking about balancing support with that space to allow the student to have the most independence possible. All right, just in the classroom, some more ways to support AAC users. Foster peer support. So if the individual who uses AAC is okay with a friend or a classmate touching their device, then that's okay. If the student's okay with it and it's not in like a I'm taking this away from the student kind of way, the student is trying to communicate or explore that student's communication method, really supporting that inclusive environment. Work as a team with the child's SLP, parents, paraprofessional, and more. We'll talk a lot about team communication in the afternoon presentation. Model on a light tech board, like we were talking about those core boards, printable, have a bunch of them accessible in the classroom. Velcro them to the filing cabinets so they can be easily accessed. Outside the bathroom, before and after the student is going throughout their day. At the door when you guys are transitioning to different parts of the school day. Incorporating AT tools into lessons. So this picture on the right here, this is actually something also that Grid offers, which is really great. It's called the See and Say board. So what you do here is you would select that specific grid set, and it puts a browser window inside of a core board, essentially, so that the students can come up and select core vocabulary while you're watching a video or looking at a website or doing something, presenting a PowerPoint. So really integrating that into your lessons. Great tool. Again, we talked about wait time and just driving home that communication happens everywhere, on the playground, in the lunchroom, on the bus. These are some great resources that you can check out. We didn't talk about kind of more classroom support tools. Boardmaker is a great resource. There are some other tools that use AI that are kind of coming out into the forefront. Glint, you can make lots of different things on Glint. So if you just Google Glint by NerdChat, I don't have that linked here, but it's an AI-powered visual support generator. So you can make task analyses, visual schedules, all kinds of stuff. They have like a free ceiling, and then I think once you get to 10 boards that you make, it says, hey, now you have to pay for it. But just some great resources. Assistiveware, Core Word Classroom, AAC Language Lab, they have a lot of integration tools. So the individual who's asking before about how to integrate this into classroom lessons, how do I get that teacher buy-in? These are some great resources to check out. All right, takeaways. Acknowledge all forms of communication, model, communicate with the student's team, parents too. Always provide the student access to their communication setup and train others who do not know the setup. Be patient with yourself as you learn how to best support communication of those with complex communication needs. Just some more resources to check out and references. And any questions? We're leaving some time for questions. If you guys have any questions. Thank you also. Not seeing any questions yet, but you might be typing them.
Right, we're modeling that wait time. But yes, I know, Madison, we have a couple kind of wrap up things. I did want to put in the chat the evaluation. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. The other thing I'm going to put in there is the information for the ASHA PD hours as well, like the contact hours. So just to be clear, these are not CEUs, but they are eligible for those contact hours. So the information on the ASHA website that I just put in is a way for you to understand how you can go ahead and do that. So please fill out the AT Center eval, which is the first link in the chat. And then if you are interested in the ASHA information, the link is right there. Great. And we have a few more questions, so I'll let you go.
I do see some questions here. Okay, going back up to Henry. What piqued your interest to enter this field of work? That's like a long answer. How do I make a short answer out of that? I will say that my brother has a disability, so I've always been interested in supporting individuals with disabilities, and my path led me to speech language pathology. I didn't originally, have a specific interest in AAC. I actually wanted to work with adults in, aphasia, so language, but I fell in love with AAC, and I always love talking about AAC. I always am trying to learn more, and happy to help support others in their learning journey. I like how you said I can hide most buttons while a student is new to Proloquo. How do you do this with Proloquo to Go? So I was talking about how the programs are different. Proloquo to Go, which is the blue background with the owl on it. They both have owls, so it's kind of confusing as well in the icon. Proloquo to Go, it's called the progressive language feature. And Proloquo, it is called focus mode. So, and you can check those out if you go to AssistiveWare's website, which I think Vanessa might have linked here. Daniela said, I know modeling without expectation is a common suggestion in the AAC world. What if the student's attention is fleeting? How do you know that they are benefiting from modeling without expectation? So I will highlight that, I think often in the school setting, we introduce AAC and people want results per se. People want to see progress right away. But just thinking about how long it takes for, a child, like a whole year plus, that's kind of there's a range there to start using that language and not even using it to its full capacity at that point. So, I think in terms of the student's attention, maybe there are some other factors that, might be helpful to manage, like their regulation, or, if they need sensory breaks, trying to manage that throughout the day. But, continuing to ride the modeling without expectation train, it's definitely the best practice, and just being patient with yourself and the student. The student likes to edit buttons nonstop. She's in first grade. Is it appropriate to prevent this by putting a passcode to edit? I think maybe you could do it together in therapy sessions, or if you have that sometimes with allowing the parent to edit is kind of a gray area, but if you have a trusting relationship with that parent and they edit it with your guidance, I think doing it kind of in those structured with some overview and support. They are a young student, and maybe as they get older, they can have more independence to edit by themselves. But make it a part of your therapy session, like the last couple minutes to, what do you want to add? Let's edit together. Back to hiding buttons again. How about in Touch Chat? So Touch Chat also has that feature as well. I'm forgetting the specific name of it. I think it's just called hide mode. So you can kind of like toggle on, toggle off that within the settings, and you would just click which buttons you want to. Once you turn it on, it hides everything, and you click which buttons you want to turn on for that specific mode, and then you just turn the hide mode off.
And Madison, there's one question in the QA box as well. This is in regard to handouts. What handouts could we provide staff for our older students? This has become a growing problem of staff having expectations for verbal communication. And what video resources would you suggest that I show my staff?
Off the top of my head, I could point you to a lot of these vendor websites. I'm sure that they have a plethora of resources. I'll have to look for something specifically for older students, but as I mentioned before, AssistiveWare has a lot of great resources on their website. Toby Dynavox, PRC, are some other vendors that produce a lot of content. Smartbox as well. Smartbox makes grid. So definitely kind of exploring those different websites. And if I find anything specifically, you can send me an email, and I can search for something specifically. But definitely check out those resources. Any other questions? And make sure you fill out that evaluation form. That is how you get your certificate for any kind of professional development hours that you might need. And thank you guys so much. This is always a pleasure to chat about AAC. And as Vanessa mentioned, we have some upcoming professional development events in the afternoon. I'm doing a session on AAC evaluations in schools, and definitely reach out to us. We have webinars on YouTube, a lot of great stuff already on there. Our Instagram, we have a podcast. So yeah, thank you guys so much. And thank you to our wonderful interpreters. Thank you, Cheryl and Craig. And thank you, Vanessa.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, and yes, the evaluation, sure, we can email that out as well. Holly, I did see your last question there. So sure, we can send that out in the post-event emails. But thank you all so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us. Are you a New Jersey educator looking for support or professional development tailored to your district's AT needs? We offer free, customized training and coaching for NJ teachers, paraprofessionals, and families. From hands-on workshops to individual classroom support and small group facilitation, we're here to help. Visit us at atcenter.tcnj.edu to learn more. Have a question? Contact us at atcenter@tcnj.edu.